it's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Where you can toke.
I inhale it.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great.
Just not cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical, Russ Belville.
Oh, yes, the crowd goes wild. Thanks for joining us here. It is Friday. We made it to the weekend. Hope you're having a good one. It is a extra long weekend for a lot of people, being it's one of those religious holidays and all.
Oh, religion. When will they ever learn?
But thanks for the days off, though.
Yeah, well.
Thanks for the days off. Yeah, so we'll have no...
Now give me a job and then I'll appreciate the days off.
That's right. So no shows on Monday because we'll just be doing the holiday thing, and I hope you will be too. I'm headed to Idaho this weekend. Taking off tonight after the Herb Thrasher show. Interestingly enough, my father and Madeline Martinez have the same birthday.
Oh, really?
March 31st, which is also Easter.
That's right. It is her birthday coming up.
So happy birthday to everyone whose birthday is March 31st. Glad to hear it. But I'll be heading to Idaho. Dad's turning 71, and it'll be nice to see my nieces, one of whom is 19. Oh, my God. And the other is 16. Oh, my God. So, yeah, can head back to Idaho, back into the danger zone. So I got to get myself psyched up to it because, I don't take weed with me to Idaho. And I usually don't find weed in Idaho either. So this is a weekend of no weed, which is a bummer. Yeah.
Hey, actually, we might be able to get you some candies or cookies to take on the road with you.
Nah, I don't want to take that chance.
No?
Okay. I figure if Idaho has any sort of list, I ought to be on it. Even if I'm not, I ought to be.
Oh, we're probably on multiple lists by now, but it's okay.
Probably. So I found a story that I thought was interesting. Didn't really fit into our news stories, but it's kind of a story. Well, it just kind of shows you how our mandatory minimums are messed up. Here it is. This is from Australia, this story. And it comes from the Northern Territory News. So this is like the backwoods of Australia, right? If you can picture Australia in your head, most of Australia is in the bottom right corner and the bottom left corner, right? As far as where the people are and the major cities and all of that. And then the north part of Australia is kind of, not so much. Okay. So it's the Northern Territory of Australia, and it opens up by saying a territory man who believed radiation and chemotherapy treatment killed 3 loved ones started growing cannabis because it was a major benefit to the immune system and cured his mother of cancer. He's from a place called Bachelor. They found him cultivating 81 cannabis plants.
It's a good number.
Yeah. He's a service station owner, and he'd been growing the crops for up to 7 months when the police raided his property in May last year. The court was told that he was growing the plants because he believed the cannabinoids were beneficial to the human immune system and could cure his sick mother. The justice, Peter Barr, was told, the judge, right, was told his beliefs stemmed from the loss of his wife, grandmother, and friend, who were all undergoing radiation or chemotherapy when they died. His wife died at age 22, leaving the then 26-year-old man with 3 children aged 1, 2, and 4 in 1978. So he raised 3 kids on his own. The judge said, you use cannabis to treat your own health ailments and to treat your mother's cancer. You believe, and I accept that you sincerely believe, that you cured your mother's cancer by administering to her cannabinoids. He also said he was not a recreational user, but took the drug solely for medical purposes. So for the 81 plants in Australia, he got a 6-month suspended jail sentence. No jail time. Caught him with 81 plants, no jail time.
I need to move to Australia.
And because, now, don't get me wrong, they catch almost anyone else with 81 plants in Australia, and you're going to be doing some hard time. Mm-hmm. But because they don't have a mandatory minimum there, the judge can hear the facts of the case.
Ha-ha! There's a big difference between their court system and ours.
He can look at the guy and says, guy's got no previous record, no conviction. He's a well-respected member of the community. He's not dealing to anyone else. He's keeping it at home. He's legitimately and sincerely believing it's medical use for himself and his family. And the judge went, yeah, I see that. It's against the law, so I got to do something, but, suspended sentence.
No.
Now, I don't know what this means for the future of this guy. Does he have to now, in America, he'd be under probation and he'd have to do, P tests and all that. And maybe that's the case in Australia. I'm not sure, but this just goes to show.
Still, the difference is amazing.
Yeah, that mandatory minimum sentencing takes away the purpose of even having a judge. A judge can't hear these kind of facts, or he can hear these facts, but can't change the sentence.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. They say their hands are tied, but,
It should be, getting rid of mandatory minimum sentencing should be at least the first thing we're able to do at the federal level. Go ahead and keep marijuana illegal and drugs illegal if that's what you got to do for now. But to have a mandatory minimum sentence for drugs when we don't have mandatory minimum sentences for violence or ripping off the U.S. economy, big banks, I'm looking at you,
shit,
then there shouldn't be one for pot. Let's take a break. We'll be right back.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com. Hi, this is Dan Michaels. If you're looking for professional voice talent for your commercial or podcast, I'm your man. Visit DanMichaelsAudio.com for more information.
Down by the sea, oceans and waves, paradise so free, Jamaican style leaf. When nature's medicine makes me high, I dream while everything passes by. It's hard to sing when my throat gets dry. 2 hits to the brain. I'm 1 toke away. Planted the seeds.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Toker Talk Radio, 9 after the hour. That's Dallas Leonard with 1 toke. Some news I got last night via the Twitter that I did not include on today's news because it's news, but it's not that big a deal. If you'll check out the webcam, you can see my picture from yesterday at the Billboard. The big billboard that was purchased, and it's up there, right? This is not that billboard. The Friends with Banking Benefits, no. But as you continue to look up there, up that building, what is that, 4th, 5th floor? That's where you find the billboard, right? And that's the Marijuana Policy Project billboard they put up on Southwest 13th and Southwest Alder Street 2 days ago. April is Alcohol Awareness Month. Picture of a beer, picture of a wine glass, and picture of a pot leaf that says beer, wine, safer. Don't just drink, think. And then marijuanaissafer.org. Well, the news I got last night, the billboard's been vandalized.
What?
All the way up there. Somebody cut some of the cables because it's held on like by a series of it's lashed there to the side of the building.
Yeah.
And apparently they somebody got up there. I mean, that's up there. That's like up that fire escape or something, and cut some of the cables on the thing. So
okay, now.
Yeah, I got that from Roy Kaufman. He let me know last night, the Oregon MPP head. But apparently they're on the repair right now. The ad people are going to get that fixed, and it'll be back up. But yeah, and the other news that was interesting to find out about it was how the rehab people were complaining that there was this pot billboard there, next to their rehab, and the billboard that was up there before was a Coors billboard.
Yeah.
That didn't get vandalized.
Yeah, no, of course, because they like having, alcohol rehab. Go ahead and
business.
And go ahead and drink so that they can cure you.
Yep. So that's some of the updates that we got here from Portland.
That's bullcrap. Happened here in Portland. I can only think of a couple of groups of people who would do that. One, law enforcement.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two, people who are, cannabis consumers but don't want it legalized because they're involved with the black market side of it.
Right.
Let's see. Who else? Russ, name a group here.
Well, you got your beer people.
Yeah.
Wouldn't want that. For sure.
Yeah, they think that, cannabis bars are going to take over their alcohol bars and they aren't going to have their selection or something. It's like, come on. This is the land of homebrewed beer, homemade wine, and some of the finest homegrown cannabis in the country, in the world. So, we're all about crafting here, so we can have ours if you can have yours.
There's a slideshow going up on the Huffington Post, World Marijuana Laws, Where to Smoke Weed. And they point out that some places it's much more difficult to be a weed smoker, like the United Arab Emirates, where you can get execution. Yes, you can be executed to a few years of prison in Japan. But they point out the Netherlands, of course, and Peru. Drug laws in Peru are generally relaxed. You can have up to 8 grams of cannabis in your possession as long as you don't have another drug.
Oh, wow, cool.
Very nice in Peru.
I'm safe there.
Germany, one of the most weed-tolerant countries, Germany allows the possession of up to 6 grams of cannabis. In some cities, such as Berlin, the limit is up to 10 grams.
You want to put that slideshow up with the...
No, pictures are probably copyright.
Oh, gotcha.
Argentina, the Supreme Court legalized the private use of marijuana in small amounts, ruling that it would be unconstitutional to ban it. Cyprus. Smoking weed in Cyprus is illegal, according to the European Monitoring Center for Drugs and Drug Addiction, ranging from 2-year jail to life imprisonment in Cyprus.
And for those who don't know their world geography, that would be like in the Mediterranean, right?
Right, off the boot.
Right off the boot.
Mexico passed a law in 2009 decriminalizing possession of small amounts of all major narcotics, including marijuana, cocaine, heroin, ecstasy, and crystal meth. This is a little misleading, because what Mexico actually did, here's the way it was. In Mexico, it was set up so that if you were an addict, a judge could treat you differently than if you were a criminal, right? If they thought you were dealing or selling, right? That was one thing, but if you were an addict...
Then you had a disease, and
it's a public health
medical thing, yeah.
And they give you a civil thing, right? Well, the problem is there was no definition as to what makes an addict. Like, what level is an addict? So it would be up to whatever cop or whatever judge or whatever, corrupt element of the Mexican justice system would decide who was an addict and who wasn't. And so, one guy would be an addict at 5 grams, the other one would be a criminal at 3 grams, right? So what Mexico did in 2009 was passed a law defining at what level is just personal use. So it just codified what the levels were for what Mexico was already doing, is basically what's going on. Australia, Australian Capital Territory, Northern Territory, South Australia, and Western Australia allow the personal consumption of weed in small amounts. It's strictly forbidden in other Australian states. Okay, interesting to know. Switzerland took steps to ease marijuana laws in 2000. Sales are still banned, but the 4 cantons of Vaud, Neuchâtel, Geneva, and Freiburg announced that the cultivation and consumption of up to 4 plants per person is legal according to a law passed in January 2012. Now, cantons are like states or provinces or whatever, right? Yeah. So there's 4 of those in Switzerland.
Districts, areas, whatever you want to call them.
Colombia. In July, Colombia's constitutional court ruled in favor of a state-backed proposal to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of cocaine and marijuana for personal use. Under the proposal, anyone caught with less than 20 grams of marijuana or 1 gram of cocaine will not be prosecuted or detained. Colombia. Spain. The Spanish decriminalization policy tolerates the personal possession of 2 plants and has allowed the creation of more than 300 cannabis co-ops.
Yep, they've got that annual Spanibus.
That's right. Belgium was one of the first countries to create a legal distinction between possession of cannabis for personal use and other types of drug offenses. According to the law, adult individuals can carry up to 3 grams of cannabis in Belgium.
Cool.
The Czech Republic. Drug possession was decriminalized in the Czech Republic in 2010 after research found that the penalization of drugs had not only increased the drug use rates around the country, but had also failed to curb the availability of illicit drugs. In Chile, individuals can only consume cannabis in small quantities on private property and alone. What's this? Is this a smoking circle?
There's no such thing as a circle.
There's no circles there in Chile, I guess.
Bummer.
So, let's see.
That's too bad, because smoking with friends, that's
part of the fun.
Yeah.
In Brazil, Brazil decriminalized possession of drugs for personal use as part of major drug law revisions in 2006. In Paraguay, if an individual is found to have no more than 10 grams of cannabis in Paraguay, he or she will not be punished criminally or administratively unless the court determines that the person is addicted to drugs. And the United States, the consumption of cannabis is allowed in Washington and Colorado. So there you go. A few different countries around the world and what their cannabis policies are. And as you probably recognize, a lot of those were South American countries that were talking about this. Argentina, Peru, Chile, Paraguay, Colombia, that are coming up with more sensible policies with respect to marijuana than we've got. And it's just, for how long this charade can keep up when we've got states within the United States that are railing against our federal stand, and we've got governments in our hemisphere now that are going in. This is no longer, they can't just, the Netherlands, that's a different place, that's a different culture.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and so is Argentina, they're different, and Portugal, they're completely different than the United States too, and Chile is way different, and Switzerland, they're different. Everybody's different. Somehow the United States, we're unique. We're the only place on earth where we have to punish people for marijuana, where we have to lock up 5%, we have to lock up 25% of the world's prisoners.
Well, it's for their own good.
Probably for their own good.
Well, because we know better than them, because obviously, we've got better paying jobs, and we've got nicer clothes, and we've got,
Not anymore. Not anymore. Those jobs have gone away, and we're trying to restrict the jobs that could be made from industrial hemp and from the consumer cannabis market that's out there. It can't last much longer, folks. We are winning. Sometimes it's hard to remember that. but we are winning. We got to take a break. It's 4:20 here in the Pacific time zone, and that carries with it great responsibilities. We'll be right back.
Oh, have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
And now it's time for a continuing feature, Rise of the Warrior Cop, Radley Balko's account of the raid of the day, featuring the dedicated and very well-armed members of Special Weapons and Tactics, aka SWAT. Today's raid of the day comes to you from the state of Hawaii. Given the amount of force that the Kauai, Hawaii Police Department meted out to catch him, you'd think David Hibbets had gone on a spree of orphanage and nunnery burning. Yet when Hawaii 5th Circuit Court Judge Kathleen Watanabe finally sentenced him in May 2006, he got all of 5 years probation, some fines, and community service. His crime? He had mailed 11 pounds of pot to his home in Hawaii while visiting California. A year earlier, Kauai police had intercepted the package and outfitted it with a radio transmitter. They then obtained an anticipatory search warrant, which authorized them to search whatever house the package was in when it was opened. Hibbets retrieved the package from the post office. The police followed his Toyota pickup truck down the Kawamualai, Hawaii highway, down the highway, then into a private neighborhood. But by the time the transmitter indicated that the box had been opened, the police had lost track of the truck. There were 7 houses on the street. They had a 1 in 7 chance of picking the right place. So they picked one at random, even though the truck they had been following wasn't parked in any of the driveways. Inside that house, William and Sharon McCulley were babysitting their grandchildren. According to the McCulleys' subsequent lawsuit, the police entered the home quickly and threw Sharon McCulley and one of the grandchildren to the ground. They screamed profanities at her, put a knee into her back, and pushed a gun to her head, hard enough to leave an imprint of the barrel on her scalp. William McCulley was in the kitchen. Due to a nerve disorder, he used a walker and a leg brace. He also used an implanted device that delivers electrical impulses to help him manage pain. When the police ordered him to the floor, he was apparently too slow to respond, so an officer threw him down with violence. That caused his electrical device to malfunction. He began convulsing, or as the lawsuit colorfully put it, flopping like a fish. The police had raided the wrong house. When they realized as much, they picked another house to raid. Still, no box. Finally, on the third try, the police raided the home with Hibbets, the box of marijuana, and 2 others inside. In October of 2007, Kauai County settled with the McCulleys for $325,000. This is your tales of the rise of the warrior cop. Yeah. Add that to the why we must oppose marijuana prohibition.
Indeed.
Episode number 12,000. I mean, it's just this.
Like, how many more stories are people going to have to hear before they smarten up?
I just like the, well, we tracked the box to this housing complex. There's 7 places it could be. Let's just go bang on some doors until we find out the right one.
Yeah, no.
Because if this suspect were to have a 11-pound box of marijuana...
Well, it would be quite easy for them to dispose of it, you know.
Well, not only that, I mean, it would be an 11-pound box of marijuana in a neighborhood where, you know, he might smoke some of it, and then people around the neighborhood might
not get hurt,
have any idea he was smoking any of it, and nothing happens to him. And so it's critical that right this moment, since we don't know which of the 7 houses it is, by God, we got to pick one. We're going to knock down doors until we find that 11-pound bag of marijuana, because by God, if we don't, there could be catastrophe somehow.
Well, the guys opening the package could find the transmitter.
Oh, my God. And Wake Up Dead has the perfect response. And who got fired? Nobody.
Nobody
got fired.
Yeah.
Kidding me? That's the kind of world, and that's the kind of world that a lot of people out there don't realize exists in this marijuana prohibition. They think people get just slaps on the wrist. They don't actually know. You start telling some of these stories to people, and they don't believe you. They think that there must be, there must have been something more. No, this happens all the time. It happens. This is regular. These are the people that manage to sue and fight back.
This is the everyday things. Yeah, it's like it doesn't, you rarely hear about the people who just get thrown around and kicked and beaten and then don't speak up about it because, hello, it's the cops, they don't want retaliation. It's ridiculous. This, giant militarized organization that can just throw its weight around in communities. What the
Yep. And this is the tale that you need to tell for the people who don't think marijuana prohibition affects them in any way. It's like, yes, it does. Your house could be the one that's the wrong address house. And even if it's not your house that's the wrong address house, your taxpayer dollars are part of the $325,000 that went out to take care of these lawsuits when they happen.
Yeah, and to help pay for the initial busting in and terrorizing of those families.
In the first place, yeah.
Yeah.
Over a box of weed. A guy who got some weed in California and mailed it back to himself in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Now, let's take the worst case scenario. I mean, from their point of view. I don't see this as worst, but let's take it from their point of view. This guy may have gone to California, bought himself 11 pounds of weed for $20,000.
Yeah.
Maybe in California prices. Well, maybe more.
Maybe.
Whatever.
However much it is.
He spent 5 figures buying 11 pounds of weed. And then he mailed it to himself in Hawaii, where he probably gets a whole lot more for it.
Yeah.
Especially broken down to retail sales amounts. So he takes his 5-figure investment, and then he sells weed. And again, we're just speculating here, and just, that 11 pounds could have been his supply for the next couple of years. We don't know. But let's just say that he was doing this for profit. He did fly it, or ship it to himself so he could make some money.
We're trying to put ourselves in their crazy mindset.
Yeah, let's get
law enforcement.
Let's get in their crazy law enforcement mindset. Okay, so he does this, and then he gets the weed, and he brings it back
do that, and then
to sell it and make money. Okay, so here we have a guy who sold weed and made money. That when he made that money, he spent it somewhere And geography is not my strong suit, but if I'm recalling correctly, Hawaii is an island.
There's not really a lot of places else that you could spend the money.
Right.
I mean,
so I'm imagining the money he makes is getting recirculated back into the Hawaiian economy. Probably, right? And the people that he sold the marijuana to, now I'm just speculating here, probably not kids. Probably people he knows. Or maybe at some point along the line it does. Maybe he sells at the quarter pound level, and then someone breaks it to an ounce, and someone breaks it to an eighth, and one of those eighths makes it to a kid.
There's always middlemen.
Let's give him that even, okay? So this was the big emergency crime that needed to be broken, that we needed to break down innocent people's doors to. 2 different sets of innocent people. And remember, folks, just because they got lucky on the 3rd time and got the right guy doesn't mean they wouldn't have gone through the other 4 doors.
Yeah, the entire neighborhood.
They would have gone through all 6 doors until they got the 7th.
Yeah, and by that time, the guys could have found the transmitter and dropped the transmitter in the toilet or something, and then been out the scene, with the pot.
Take the 11 pounds and bailed.
Shit.
But even if we take their worst case example, that here's a guy who made money, made profit, and that profit would have been regenerated in the Hawaiian economy, sold a product to people who wish to buy it.
Yep. He's fulfilling the supply for the demand.
Yeah, right. I don't...
What's the harm?
It's just because it's against the law.
That's the only thing.
And it's amazing when you're around the people that are that way, because I'm going back to Idaho, so I'll be around those people. It's amazing when you're around those people, because there's a certain type of people, authoritarian type people, for whom that's enough. Well,
yeah, it's the law says so.
The law says so.
We have to obey the law.
Well, pot's illegal, so don't smoke pot. Well, I like to smoke pot. Well, if you want to have fun, have a beer. Well,
it's like, how did it be? I like to, would like to say, how did it become illegal in the first place? Well, somebody changed the law. So they can change?
So laws can change.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, think about what you just, epiphany. Oh, really? That just dawned on you, laws can change. Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, yeah, you remember alcohol prohibition? Yeah, that shit changed too. Remember slavery? Yeah, that shit changed too. Remember, it's like, gay rights? That shit's changing too.
That's changing too.
But anyway, human rights, I should say,
That's
but
right.
Whatever. It's just, come the fuck on, people. Wake up. This is 2013, according to somebody's calendar. But it isn't enough? How much longer are we going to have to be fearful that our neighbor might be, intercepting a package of 11 pounds, and that me and my 4 other neighbors have to worry about getting busted in on by gun-toting maniacs screaming profanities at our children just because they got the wrong house? Oh, sorry. Oh, sorry for the inconvenience. Oh, yeah,
Yeah. And who knows what happens to those kids for the rest of their life, too, as far as the post-traumatic stress goes.
And especially if one of them happens to react badly to the people breaking in. That could mean immediate death. Oops, so you were coming at me because I was intruding on your house, in your private space, and, so I had to shoot you for the law. And, we were in the wrong place at the wrong time, or we shouldn't have been there at any time. Well, our bad. Not like they can bring anybody back.
And what we're going after this guy for with the 11 pounds of weed who shipped it to himself, even if you take all of their worst case examples, and you add them all together as to how bad it was, the fact that they can't see the solution is in making that regulated and legal is just so frustrating. You don't see a lot of people buying lots and lots of, say, wine from California and trying to sell it without being a regulated reseller, right? There's not a big black market in it, right? People that want to, California wine's popular. People that want to sell it in Hawaii, there's legal and legitimate ways to do it. We're not wasting a lot of cop time trying to stop them from doing it.
Yeah, so you don't come here, buy a bunch of unrolled tobacco and ship it to yourself, with the intent of selling it off in smaller quantities,
So
because there's no money in it.
If you want to delegitimize it, deglamorize it, and take away the massive profit potential, make it as boring to buy and sell as beer. Seems like such an obvious solution when we've done this once before, circa 1933. Well, it gets frustrating sometimes, but fortunately, weed helps you deal with frustration.
Yeah, repeating the same thing over and over can be stressful, so let's take a break.
Be right back.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Funky roller ring.
Oh yeah.
What's happening, groovy cats? This is your funk master of ceremonies, Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, right here at the Funky Roller Ring.
Oh yeah.
Your home of soul, funk, and disco, baby.
Funky-licious.
There's always a party at the Funky Roller Ring.
Welcome back, everybody. That's Valiant Thor with Double Crossed. I had to take a little bit of an extra long break because I was looking up the story, wanted to find the picture, and sure enough, it's out there of our Portland Billboard. Let me switch you over to some video cam. Let's see if we can get this on. All right, so there's the billboard, the Beer Wine Safer billboard. And this is a story this is actually the New York Daily News. So this is making coast to coast news here, right? So our Beer Wine Safer, don't just drink, think. And I showed you my picture of how high up, like it's 5 stories up there, right? There it is today. You can see the spot where it was. And so what had to happen is somebody had to get up on top here and cut the cables here along this way. Because this was all cabled along all 4. You can still see where it's attached along the bottom, right? But it was cabled all the way across the top and the sides. So they had to cut cable all around here. And part of the reason why this had been put up was to coincide with this weekend's Spring Beer and Wine Festival. The whole point was beer, wine, safer. And now it's cut down. And before you go thinking, conspiracy theory or anything that it was the beer, wine people that did it, no, because Steve Woolard, from the man who runs the Spring Beer and Wine Festival, who created it, is a 44-year pot smoker. He admitted he'd been smoking weed for 44 years and wants to see it become legalized so that we actually have the Spring Beer, Wine, and Weed Festival. He's on our side. But that's just despicable that our billboard, 2 days up. 2 days up, and somebody had to cut it down. Now,
ridiculous.
I have my speculation. My speculation is overzealous ex-addict or addicts at the rehab center. I've met a few of these types that once they had their drug problem, they got all addicted on heroin or speed or whatever it was, and now that they're kicking, they realize, first thing I ever did was weed. Weed is evil.
All drugs are bad.
And this is the way they choose to rebut it, because, of course, in Portland, Oregon, the idea of legalizing weed is a fairly popular one. So that's our billboard. And it will not be put back up in time for this weekend's festivities.
And that's just bullshit.
Yeah, so there we go. Mason DeVert got interviewed for the New York story. Said, Portland is a city where a strong majority of people realize that prohibition of marijuana has failed. More voters are acknowledging the fact that marijuana is less harmful than alcohol, so this is an important message to keep pushing. And we will. There we go. So, yeah, unfortunately won't make it. The photo, by the way, was a Twitter photo from Catherine Cook, that same reporter from KGW who is in my videos. If you want to see the interviews of the press conference and the videos that I took of the billboard while it was still up, you can go to youtube.com/RadicalRuss. It's all available right up there. There is a letter out of the Baltimore Sun. I like getting the letters to the editor, because it used to be when there was a legalization question up and you'd put in a letter to the editor to legalize, the response you'd get back, all the vitriol, oh, you pothead, oh, you doper, oh, you terrible, oh, it was awful, right? Now it's the opposite. Now comment boards and letter to the editors are all, almost all in support of legalization, or at least ending prohibition. And the one that gets in that's anti, the one that's, keep prohibition, gets savaged in the comment section. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Times are changing in that aspect, at least.
So I wanted to address this one from Mike Gimbel of Timonium, Maryland.
Timonium sounds like a element that we haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, timonium. It's the element that gives Timmy Harris all his powers.
Hi-oh.
Timonium. All right, so legalizing pot will put teens in jeopardy. Right? If we legalize pot, it will put teens in jeopardy. So let's get to it.
Well, no, I think it might put some teens on jeopardy.
In spite of citizen concerns, it seems our politicians are determined to decriminalize marijuana, either under the smokescreen of medical use or through outright legalization. I love it when they call the medical use a smokescreen or a Trojan horse, or
the word in itself is a pun. It's one of those, they're from their list, it's a smoke screen.
Thank you so much. Yes. As if someone who's violently puking who then smokes pot and stops violently puking, as if that's fake.
Yeah.
Right? Well, they're just trying to legalize medical use so that they can get legalization. No, I'm trying to legalize medical use so that person who's puking there doesn't get arrested when they take something that makes them stop puking. They're not getting high from it. Well, maybe they are. They're feeling euphoria too, but they're in. See, even I'm willing to recognize there's two categories of pot smokers: want to and need to. I'm willing to recognize that. There's people that need to smoke pot. I just believe that we should be able to make our own determination as to who is a need and who is a want, right? Shouldn't be an arbitrary, well, you need to because you have cancer.
Yeah.
Anyway, but I'm willing to admit there's people that need to, and that's what supporting medical marijuana is all about. Anyway, let me get back to this guy. As with tobacco, alcohol, and prescription drugs, supporters of legalization will assure us there will be age limits on who can purchase and use marijuana. And we all know how well those limits have worked to keep teens from getting their hands on cigarettes, alcohol, and prescription drugs in the past.
Oh, wait a second.
Well, Mike, let's not let facts get in the way. Let me give you some facts. When I was in high school, 95% of teens had drank. When I was in high school, 70% of teens had smoked. In high school today, 70% of teens have drank, and 40% of teens have smoked. That's a decline of 25 points in drinking, and a decline of 30 points in smoking. Now, that's lifetime use. Let's take a look at regular use. When I was in high school, 60% of 12th graders regularly drank alcohol. Today, it's 52. When I was in high school, 37% of teens regularly smoked. Today, it's 27. So, this idea that what we've done with our limits on alcohol and tobacco haven't worked that well is false. It actually seems to work quite well.
And I want to know, about this. Where's this limit of age to protect the children from these prescription drugs, which are readily available and prescribed to them, even though the drugs don't even get tested on children?
There's that too. All right, let's get to his third graph here. So parents need to prepare for a future in which marijuana will be easily available through local dispensaries, which will become the equivalent of liquor stores. You mean they'll be adults only?
And hard for children to even come close to without a raised eyebrow?
They'll check their IDs inside? Is that where... You mean where all of the marijuana will be behind locked doors with, like, security cameras and stuff? Gosh, that sounds awful. What a terrible dystopian future you have painted for us.
The only thing good I can see is the variety.
I also encourage parents to learn about how marijuana is a fat-soluble drug that stays in the body's brain, lungs, and reproductive system for up to 30 days. Up to 30 days.
Yay! That means it wins. It stayed the longest. It won the contest.
Yeah, really. Okay, so marijuana in the brain. The active effect of THC on the brain will last about 4 hours at best.
Man, give me something that'll keep me high for a month, man. Jeez.
What he is referring to, of course, are marijuana metabolites that stay in the body for up to 30 days. Metabolites, which of course have nothing to do with getting you high. In fact, the very term metabolite means it's been metabolized.
Pick up a dictionary, people.
Let's see. Oh, the lungs, too. It's going to affect your lungs, except for the fact that we've shown that marijuana smoking does not affect your lungs in a long-term and detrimental way.
Yeah, I've actually timed myself. I can hold my breath longer with a bong hit than I can doing a dead man's float.
Okay.
Hey, I was doing some research one summer.
Well, we've got to know.
I had to know.
All right. And then the reproductive system. All of this stuff about pot affecting the reproductive system. Let me tell you, folks. Tommy Chong has 7 kids. Willie Nelson's got 9 kids. Bob Marley's got 11 kids that we're aware of. Okay? If marijuana had a significant impact on the reproductive system, there'd be no Rastafarians, would there? There'd be no Rastafarian kids. There'd be no hippie kids. It's just not true.
Yep, there definitely wouldn't have been, such a baby boom after the 70s.
Now, his theory, his hypothesis here, with it staying in our system for 30 days, is this then leads to an amotivational syndrome, better known as burnout. Symptoms of burnout include an inability to concentrate, short-term memory loss, and lack of motivation, which we often see in teens who smoke marijuana. Okay.
Burnout. I don't think I've heard that term since the mid-'80s.
Yeah, burnout.
Burnout, man. Yeah, I remember, them talking about burnouts, But, hey, we're still burning. As long as there's a bowl to burn.
Producing 3 video hours per day, 2 audio podcasts per day, 2 to 5,000 words a day, 1 out-of-state trip a month, running 2 businesses. Yeah.
Co-producing, 3-4 other shows, something like that.
Motivation's really lacking.
Oh, man. Yeah,
I sure wish I didn't smoke pot so I could be motivated.
Yeah, if I didn't smoke pot, maybe I would be able to do more than just my 1-hour show, Oh, no, actually, I did a 2-hour show last week, so it's right.
Final paragraph. It is important parents begin to learn these signs and symptoms so they can intervene and get their children the help they will need. We have already seen a rise in marijuana use among school-age kids, and it's only a matter of time before outright legalization occurs. At least it ends on a happy note.
Yeah.
Yes, it is only a matter
of time. At least he succeeds to that.
And you're right. You should, as a parent, learn the signs of your kids smoking pot.
Yeah.
Because your kids shouldn't be smoking pot. If they are, start talking to them. Maybe if you talk to your kids a little more, but I can't talk about that. I don't have a kid. So.
My dad talked to me before I started doing anything, so hey, make the right choice. Talk to your kids.
We're going to take a little break. Come back, we'll close out the weekend and talk about Herb Thrasher. Oh, and Big Daddy Fink, Funky Roller Rink, Funkin' Groovin'. Some badass Billy Cobham on this episode. Lots of good instrumental funk. Check it out. Coming up at the top of the hour.
You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
And now, another episode of Cannabis Shakespearean Theatre. I'm your host, Leonard Pinth-Garnell III. Tonight we take a look at one of the finest works in the cannabis cinema, 1996's Half-Baked, starring David Chappelle, as interpreted by the Royal Shakespearean Cannabis Theatre Company. In this scene, Chappelle's character, Thurgood Marshall, has just admitted his addiction to cannabis to a room full of narcotics addicts. One addict, played in the film by Robert Saget, and interpreted here by the Royal Company's Sir Frederick Farrach, takes umbrage at the suggestion.
I find preposterous the notion that you, sir, may be addicted to cannabis. In times previous, I have undertaken lubricious endeavours, most revolting and unbecoming of a proper gentleman, in my servitude to the wicked powder of the coca leaf. Lo, that is an addiction whose chains would bind Hercules. At any point in history, could one identify a moment in your life so sullied by your ignominy as a cannabis slave? Methinks not! Boo this man!
For Cannabis Shakespearean Theatre, I'm Leonard Pinth-Garnell III.
Hey, 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 Mr. DEA, get yourself alive and go away. All we wanna do smoke some weed.
That we do.
Oh man, why don't they just listen?
Hey, 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 Mr. FBI.
It's
just want the same rights as a beer drinker. That's all I want.
I just want to be left the fuck alone.
Leave me alone.
Just let me smoke my weed and help people, I mean, smoking weed didn't stop me from volunteering, so many places. At one place I was teaching kids about science and technology, and I put in over 500 hours in less than a year. Okay? Tell me that I have a lack of motivation. you know, and you know, I'm sorry, but you know, without people to teach, you know, you're screwed.
Here's an interesting story coming out of the San Francisco Chronicle for Nevada medical marijuana. We don't talk about Nevada much, but they've had medical marijuana for 13 years, but spotty access. They've had the same situation that a lot of states have, where an MWIO opens up, money walks in, marijuana walks out. And under whatever guise, we're caregivers for people one at a time, or we're a co-op, or we're a, you know, whatever the hell they are. They make their excuse. And then some of them get raided and busted. Anyway, it's been really tough for patients for 13 years. Looks like they might finally get some dispensaries. But I got to stop for a second for the senator who presented this bill. It's SB 374. He's from Las Vegas. He's a Democrat from Las Vegas. And his name is Tick Segerblom. Tick.
His name is Tick?
Tick. T-I-C-K. Tick. Tick. See, how do you win an election when you're named after a blood-sucking insect?
How do you get named after
a blood-sucking? How do you pick that up as a nickname or even a given name? That's a good point.
Yeah.
Although, as politicians' names go, Tick may be the most accurate.
Yeah, indeed. I was going to say, you know, that's pretty spot on.
This hasn't been such an accurate first name since Oral Roberts. All right. So, I actually knew a guy back in Boise who had a stereo shop, and his name was Dick Large. Yeah, and so on his
applications, he would always have to write Large Dick.
Right, for last name first, right? Yeah, large, comma Dick. Speaking of John Hamm, no, I mean the Mad Men John Hamm, not our John Hamm. Although our Ganja John claims to have the same problem as Mad Men's John Hamm, or John's Ham, as they call it.
John's Ham.
Boy, I digress like crazy. It's a Friday, folks. Anyway, this Tick Segerblom in Las Vegas has put up this SB 374 after he took a field trip to Arizona to see how their dispensaries were working. And the idea here is they'll put a framework for establishing and regulating medical marijuana dispensaries and operate storefronts. The legislature has passed on this so far, but he says this year he's getting a lot of support. Segerblom says, "I'm very surprised at the amount of support this bill is getting. It doesn't have the political bugaboo attached to it like it has in past years. You know why? Because Washington and Colorado legalized weed." I told people every time, I said, look, legalize a gram. It doesn't matter. Once you legalize weed, once marijuana is legal in a state, the entire conversation changes, and this is part of that. They may actually get dispensaries in Nevada. So the majority of the committee Friday echoed the same sentiment that the time has come for medical marijuana dispensaries. Scott Hammond, a Republican from Las Vegas, said this is a really important thing. You need to implement the law, and so far that has not taken place. Wow. Segerblom talks about it being a big business. They're going to have really high fees. He said the dispensaries in Arizona make between $100,000 and $700,000 a month, so high fees shouldn't make a difference. Committee members said that would also help create jobs. Imagine how many more jobs you'd have if instead of catering to 10% of the users of marijuana, the ones who are very sick, instead of gouging the sick people to try to make money, if you legalized it for 100% of the people to buy weed and then offered discounts to the sick people. Sorry, logic. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Thanks for joining us. No show on Monday. Stay tuned for Big Daddy Fink next, Herb Thrasher at 8 p.m. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
Bill Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you